This is MJ. I love Tokusatsu, and right now I want to talk about Kamen Rider ZO over Quartzer, which I believe was the last movie made in the series, sort of. It's the last out, unless that Gates Majesty one is out or whatever. But it's supposed to be carrying forward the story of ZO as no Kamen Rider can truly end when the series is over, which is something that started... When was that? Double Forze? I don't really know. But it doesn't really matter because that sort of factoid is irrelevant to what we're actually talking about here. So, wow, that's cool. I'm walking outside. There's a red-tailed hawk circling over a field while I'm recording this, and I was stunned by its beauty. Gosh, it's beautiful. Anyway, so... speaking of beautiful things, this suit has some beautiful suits that it features. There's this Zami Noga guy or whatever, who I think is supposed to be sort of like Amazon's, but really isn't. And then there's this Zajingos, who's supposed to be like a ZOJ, maybe even Shin Kamen Rider homage, and they're here. And they're on the villain side of things in this weird ZO movie. I didn't finish... I watched like less than 10 episodes of ZO, and I didn't watch it because I didn't like it. And I went ahead and I let myself sample all the debut episodes of Kamen Rider from Kuga to ZO. And I released that as another Rider cast, which you can find here on the channel or on my website, mjmunoz.com. Just look for it. You'll find it. But anyway, it gave me an opportunity to appreciate those guys, but which is pretty funny because then, like, you have a scene in the movie where he uses his Grand Zeo form, whatever Zeo's name is, and Sogo. Anyway, he uses his Grand Zeo form, and it's really funny. He ends up summoning all these other riders to help him fight the bad guy, who's called, like, Barklurks. It's like a Black RX fusion. It's a fusion of the word. It's a weird, like, portmanteau to the max of Black and Black RX or Black and RX to, you know, combine it into one single name. I don't know why they didn't just call him like Black Rex or something like that. But anyway, he summons all these, other Hesei riders to fight him because that's what apparently the Grand Zeo form can do. And what I really liked about that was we got to see, my boy Ghost and Forze going up against this Black Rex guy. But the best thing is that this dude is such a Kamen Rider Black RX tribute as the villain and as like the, alternate potential guy to take over as Omazeo, that he actually has a Revel Cane that he summons from his belt like the real Black RX does with his Revel Cane. And it's both a laser sword and not a laser sword, just like the real Revel Cane in the show, which never made sense to me except for on like a vegetarian type thing. But like there's no excuse for it not to ever be a lightsaber, but they frequently would choose to not make it a lightsaber. And anyway, it's just cool to get to see him blasting away at the these Hesei riders, a bunch of whom I really like, but these clone copies of them or whatever they're supposed to be that are fighting on behalf of ZO. It's fun to see them get trounced by this dude, especially because like his suit is so sick. And the reason I guess I don't have anything more substantive to say about this is, I don't know, there's a couple reasons. One, I didn't really watch ZO, maybe 10 episodes at the most. Two, I don't really like the idea of ZO, and I kind of have no idea what's going on in the movie, and like the plot is so minimal. I don't think it makes any sense, and I was recovering from a fever when I watched this. So other than like, I don't know, it's kind of obvious stuff to say about how I like the suits or what the action scenes were like and whatnot. I don't have a ton to say because I honestly don't feel like the movie was offering that much. It was supposed to be this Kamen Rider Drive tribute as well, which doesn't make any sense and like drives a show I'm not going to be shy about the fact that I don't like. If you want to discuss why I don't like it or discuss why it's good or whatever, I'd be happy to do that in comments, or you can respond to me however you want, and I'll probably get back to you because I think I'm a pretty fair-minded person about that stuff. And it's kind of to some degrees it's a matter of preference, but it's also a matter of I just feel like certain things that weren't done that were done in Drive weren't done well. So yeah, there is some preference. A lot of things that happen in it, the reasons I don't like it are things that I just have taste against personally, but then I also don't think they were done that well. I think it was a very well constructed show, not like Kamen Rider Build. But anyway, but where the movie really got good for me and where I really started to enjoy it was that it kind of focused on like the flaws in the concept of Kamen Rider Z01. The villain is like, or no, Waz at one point is like, yeah, you... So this is fortuitous. I accidentally stopped my recording by touching something on the screen, and I caught the fact that I called it Z01. Toei, why did you do this to us? Why did you name the series at the end of a show or a run or whatever ZO and then name the next one 01? What are you doing? Anyway, it just doesn't make sense to me. But focusing again, yeah, Waz is talking to Sogo when he's in, you know, the prison cell or whatever, and I think he's next to that like joke parody No Men Rider or No Kamen Rider or whatever the guy's name is, from the, I think it was the 80s, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, that part doesn't really matter. But yeah, Waz is saying like, yeah, like, you know, there's all this stuff about like the Heisei era is ugly and incongruous. So we, as these, you know, wardens of time or whatever, have decided to consolidate all the riders into one rider and like clean up the timeline, and we're gonna erase the Heisei era and then like rewrite it in a like uniform, lovely way that all works together. And it almost sounded like it was about like fan complaints about the Heisei era being wonky or something, which is fine. Creatives are, you know, free to snipe at their fans a little bit, but it kind of tickled me because it just, like, while maybe I do have, I've had similar issues with things, being, you know, a super fan of stuff before, where I'm irritated that, oh, it's too bad that they didn't have these things planned out so that this could have been better. And really that's like the sequel trilogy for me, even though the original trilogy sure as heck was not planned out. Like, Lucas sort of had an idea and then he just changed things and went by the seat of his pants the whole way as he made the second and third movies there. And then I don't know why my voice has decided to be trash today, but it has. So, I mean, we're going to just try to work this out together. Anyway, I kind of enjoyed that the movie was putting the villains in like a perspective of the creators or like critics of the series, or the, you know, Heisei Rider, like the way it was handled in general. I think that's kind of a fun idea. And the reason I liked that was so much was partially because it was kind of dunking on the aspects of the stuff that I don't like. But then the way that the villains are defeated, because the villains are wrong. Obviously they're like murdering people and, you know, attacking people and doing all these evil things because they want like a better aesthetic, which is totally wrongous, which is the opposite of righteous, if you didn't know. But, you know, beyond that, the villains really start getting defeated once Zio starts, I don't know, this like ethos that Sogo has, that, you know, history isn't written for the people living in the present, or like, if you go back to the past and you visit people in history, like those people are still living in their present, because there's this whole thing with Oda Nobunaga. But anyway, it carries through this theme, which I think worked really well, that like the present is always the present, and because history isn't written yet, like if people just live their lives, like you can't really box them in, and you can't take into account that they will stay within these parameters that you want to keep them in. And what happens is that the Go Rider Sentai or whatever of the Kamen Riders from the game world from Xaid, they pop in, Kamen Rider G pops in, manga, Kamen Rider Kuga pops in. You've got all this ridiculous stuff happening that doesn't fit within the proper Heisei Rider era, because, I mean, just because it matches with the theme that, like, you cannot box everybody in, and if you try to do that, you're basically going to underestimate them and be defeated. Although, I mean, I guess it's not so much a lesson for the villains, like, hey, don't underestimate your enemy so that they won't defeat you. It's more of like an inspiration to the, you know, the fans and the kids in the audience watching, saying like, hey, you know, shouldn't be limited by what other people expect of you, and if you just like do what makes you happy and live your life and pursue what you want, even if it's something as, you know, bad as becoming a king, potentially becoming a oppressive genocidal overlord, as long as you're trying to live your best life while you're doing that, that's going to be a good thing. I don't know how accurate this is, but supposedly he kind of did the same thing with, the prequels, 1, 2, and 3. When he made those, he didn't really have like a super, super solid plan laid out for the 3 of them. Maybe treatments, but nothing more detailed than that. And like, there are some things that contradict themselves within the prequels, and then that make them kind of contradictory to the original trilogy as well. And it's just like, dude, you had all this time to plan it out and like to retcon things to your liking, and you failed to do that. So, and I don't think it's cool when fans like jump all over creatives about that kind of stuff, but I think both parties have a right to voice their opinions. That's part of what makes civilized life, a good thing. I was going to say something about America, but obviously Japan doesn't have the same freedom of speech laws that America has. Actually, I don't know that. They could, but I doubt they would. That's nothing against Japanese culture. It's a totally different country, and who knows what sort of impositions were made on them after their defeat in World War II, because I believe that their constitution is supposed to be very much modeled after the United States Constitution, because, to the victor go the spoils, and we force that all on them. But like, they have to have the Japanese defense, groups or whatever, but the JDF or whatever, because they cannot have a standing army because we forbade them to, which is interesting because the U.S. Constitution says that we're not supposed to have a standing army either, because it's bad for a nation to have a standing army. But I'm not going to get all political and go into all that right now. And I have to say, once again, as somebody who didn't like Kamen Rider ZO, that really worked for me, and something about that just gelled and made me really enjoy it. So, my hat's off to, I think Kento Shimoyama is the writer of this. I tried to figure out what other stuff Shimoyama wrote. I want to say Ghost, but I don't think that's accurate, and I'm not looking it up today. It might be in the show notes, but it's definitely not going to be in the episode proper. Like, you won't hear it spelled out, so you can go look at the description, or if you're at the website, you can mjmunoz.com /mjlt. You can find the notes on that. I'll probably put those because I'm not feeling that lazy. But man, it's been a tough week for me, and even getting to the point. So that's kind of my review's over. I like the movie overall. It was kind of a what's happening here? I don't understand. I really hate Goshijima, so seeing him in the movie was irritating. But then like Gates and which I can't believe that's his name, man. Gates and Sogo kind of like mock him very silently. That was a lot of fun for me because I really dislike the guy. I think there's totally legit reasons to. If you like Goshijima, tell me how you can justify that. And if you want him to be in a romantic relationship with Chase, you got to tell me how you justify that too, because I call malarkey on that. That's like supporting abusive relationships and stuff, and nobody needs that kind of toxicity in their lives, or in my opinion, in their fandom. And we can have it out if you want, because it could be fun. Who knows? Anyway, one of the things, so I don't know, this movie was just like so weird. It was such a grab bag. There are all these, kind of contradictory ideas, but overall I really enjoyed it, because it set up a thesis and then it kind of played it to its fullest extent, and I guess I liked what it had to say when it was all said and done. Also, there was that whole thing like a year, I want to say year and a half ago, about who's the real final form for O's. Is it Puto-Tira or Tajidor? And this movie is going to make, or maybe it already did make, Tajidor fans cry, because Puto-Tira is the final guy, and they show him in like 3 or 4 different shots where all the final rider forms are, doing a big attack on the big bad guy, and that was lots and lots of fun for me anyway, because I'm team Puto-Tira. Tajidor is cool and everything, but just Puto-Tira makes way more sense, I think, at least from my watching of O's. And the last thing, I really like the 01 cameo in it, and I like the fact that the Jay Zeto guy pulled off his cloak and you got to see his undersuit, because that was pretty cool. Nice insecty goodness. He had some bug on bug action for the end of the thing, and that was a lot of fun for me. Anyway, sorry about my voice. I don't know what happened to me, but I'm struggling here to do this thing. So anyway, thanks for sticking with me. MJ Loves Toku can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Check out mjmunoz.com. For more of my other review series, there's another Rider cast, which I talked about earlier, sampling all the riders from Kuga to ZO. King of Hearts, Queen of Sorrows, which is all about Mobile Fighter J Gundam. Then I've got Going Ultra, about Ultraman, the little that I've gotten into it. And Swinging Through Comics, where I talk about comic books. I'm currently going to do something crazy, which I think I'm just going to talk about for like the next however many weeks it takes me to get through like the remaining like issues 5 through 12 of the original run of Captain America from the 40s. Why am I doing it? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Or maybe I'm a genius. Could be both. I don't know. Anyway, let me see. Oh yeah, I got to finish my spiel. I also have some writing projects over there on mjmunoz.com, so you can check those out. If you like what I do and want to support me, my Coffee and Redbubble accounts have you covered. Relevant links below. If you had a good time, like, share, and leave a comment. I have plenty of opportunity for you to leave a comment or challenge me about something. That'd be great. And you can subscribe and ring that bell to stay current on weekly 01 reviews. And remember, you don't have to shout Henshin to be a hero.